Hey, what's good, everybody? It's the Pocket Moggers. Hope y'all are doing well today. And I just wanted to do a brief video about what I'd like to see in Pokemon Winds and Waves. Leave a comment below letting me know what you'd like to see and how you feel about the new titles. I'll be honest with y'all, this won't be the most positive review I've ever given, but I'm going to do my darndest to keep it as objective as I can. So let's do a quick review of the thing itself before we get into what I'd like to see about it. Pokemon Winds and Waves was a game revealed earlier this year, late in February, with a 2027 release date. No exact date, but I suspect early in the year. That tends to be the case when Nintendo, Pokemon in particular, reveals games like this at this time. It will be a new generation of games, the 10th generation of Pokemon games, on a new generation of hardware, the Nintendo Switch 2. And hopefully that extra power will really help the Pokemon games stand out a little more, something they've had a real hard time doing, in my opinion. So there was a massive leak over at the Pokemon Company that revealed a whole bunch of information we didn't know beforehand. Um, and stuff about Winds and Waves was in that leak, but a lot of that information has changed. Some of that stuff has become other things. For example, Pokopia, everyone's favorite new Pokemon game, was in fact originally a mini game inside of Pokemon Winds and Waves before they turned it into their own thing. With that out of the way, what do I want to see from the games? Well, first and foremost, I want them to be good games. You know, everything else that I'm going to bring up here is secondary to that, of course. Like uh, Pokemon games, really, especially the past 4 or 5 main series titles, have really, really, really dragged my opinion of the series down. There's a lack of effort, there's a lack of initiative, there's a lack of coherency. They're just not well made games. I'm not here to say that they're not good games, they're not fun. That's not what I'm trying to say. Plenty of people have plenty of fun with them, but if they were a surgery patient, there would be parts of their body that still needed to be stitched up that you could see as they were leaving the hospital. You know what I mean? They're just kind of Frankenstein's monsters, and they really, really, really need to focus on making a solid, um, directly themed, fully produced, ready to go product first, please. Hey, so does anybody remember when Pokemon used to actually have characters that went around and interacted with you and helped you out with things and explored the world at the same time that you did? Not a guy who's sad because his dog is dead, and they keep just dangling that in front of you in order to get the most forced pity that you can possibly have for this character that, I mean, essentially plays no role in the story whatsoever. You know what I mean? Like, the characters have been one of the weakest parts of this series for the past 10 years or so, and I just really want them to go back to the drawing board, or maybe hire people who know how to write characters, excuse me, to make those characters, because like, I know the games are inherently for children, and I'm not trying to take that away from the theming of the game or anything like that, but kids can handle more than Pokemon is willing to give them. A lot more than Pokemon is willing to give them. And I think a lot of times that it's just for kids is a nice little scapegoat from having to actually apply any effort into what they're doing. Uh, on top of the characters, I really would love to see a world that feels like it exists. I I am so irritated in modern Pokemon games when I walk into a big city and I'm like, wow, this is cool. Look at all these cool buildings that I can't go into, and all these cool people that I can't interact with, and all of these cool Pokemon that have nothing to do with my journey. It is so lackluster. I mean, old school, like NES RPGs, remembered to make buildings that you could go into with characters that you could talk to. There's just like the rush that they get from their yearly or nearly yearly quota of game that they have to release every year is just punching them in the gut time and time again. And they need to slow down and make an actual environment that people want to experience. Think about the things that you're doing. Put things together that actually make sense. Give characters arcs that feel emotionally rewarding to the people playing your game. You know, we paid $70. Some of us paid $140 to get both of them. Right? Respect the time and effort that it took for us to get the money to pay for your game by giving us a game that actually has something to say and something to do in it. Please, Game Freak. I really want environments and maps that feel like they're connected and not just like, oh, I can go from point A to point B. No, I mean like they have some sort of theme that connects them together or structure that connects them together. I was so bummed out in Sword and Shield when I went to that route, and I don't remember the name because I don't remember much about those games. The one with phalanx in it where it could come out of the little ant holes and crawl in, and it's this cool desert, and it's got all these desert Pokemon, and there's these cool ancient structures around, and I was like, oh, this is a fun environment to explore. I can't wait to keep this theme going for the next few routes. And then you take one step and you're in a snow place. It's just completely covered in snow, like to the point that it looks like it's got permafrost from the last ice age still attached to it. Like, what is the theme here? What is connecting these places together? Yeah, there are places on Earth that have strange geography that don't seem like they match up if you don't think about it. You know what I mean? Like there are snow-capped mountains in Hawaii, right? And that doesn't feel right, even though, of course, it is, right? So I'm not here to say that disjointed environs don't exist on Earth. They do, but like theme them, put them together, give us a transition between those environments. Or like in Paldea in Scarlet and Violet, where it's just like go to the beach desert, and then when you're done in the beach desert, climb your way up to the clay hills, and from the clay hills you can explore the plains, and from the plains you can go up to the snow-capped mountain, this giant like Everest-sized snow-capped mountain in the middle of the region, and then from there you can go down into these stormy cliff sides. Like it needs to make sense. Put something together that changes them. Let me put you. I see people talking about Hoenn as an example. They like to use so Hoenn over on Route 110 and Route 111 and Route 112 it's just a desert, and then there's a tropical region next to it over on Route 119 right across the water. Like that doesn't make any sense, but it does because there are transitionary routes connecting those places. You go from the rough, craggy area to the volcano to the route where the volcanic soot and ash are pouring on top of it over to a volcano-less area. There are transitions, there are levels to the environment because they took a second and they thought about how the environment should be made. Like, I continue to, I help, as some of you may know, I work with special needs adults and do stuff, and often I am asked to help with modern Pokemon games because of my experience with the older ones. And I go and I look at the map for Paldea, and I just think, wow, these guys just didn't try. They just didn't try at all. It's just a bunch of crap just huddled together in a big ball. you know? And it sucks. Game Freak, I implore you to drop the procedurally generated stuff and just make the things yourself. Please. You don't have what it takes to make procedurally generated stuff work. You are not No Man's Sky, and you never will be. So focus on what makes you good. You're the number one video game franchise on Earth. You're the number one franchise on Earth, period. That didn't come from nowhere. It came from the time and effort you all put into the games. So do that again, please. I'd love to see some more regional forms, please. Um, that that showing in Scarlet and Violet where they went, well, here's Tauros, here's Wooper, huh? Pretty cool. That was so lame. You guys took the time to introduce us to the concept, to continue to introduce us to the concept. You did. So, I'm sorry, you did Sun and Moon. Then you did it in Sword and Shield. Then you did it in Legends Arceus. And then you do two in Scarlet and Violet and none in ZA. You invented this problem, guys. Solve it yourselves. Think about Pokemon that fit into the environment that you could use in the game. Do this stuff ahead of time. It doesn't seem like you do. And I know that that can't be the case, but it really doesn't seem like it. You know? Just like I just don't get it. You plan these things out and then you don't do them and then you act like people are irrational for criticizing you for not doing these things. What? Anyway, the convergent species, man, they were cool. Convergent evolution is very much a thing in biology. There's a lot of cool different things that happen because of convergence, like wings, different kinds of wings that we have on different kinds of animals. But it's confusing to the younger people and very clearly a way for Game Freak to just kind of tap dance around the fact that they gave us Diglett for a third time. You know what I mean? And technically a fourth because Drillbur was also Diglett but again, right? So just make them the same thing as regional forms. There is no reason for you to have done that other than to muddy the water. And why did you need to muddy the water? Because you were worried about giving us another Diglett? I I know that like inherently that's not why this happened, but it really feels like it is. You know, I just don't see, there's no reasoning behind it, especially when it's so little, so very few Pokemon. You said, oh, here's a new Diglett and here's a new Tentacool. They're part of this cool new thing we've made called Convergent Species. And everybody went, oh, okay, cool, that sounds great. And then you went, never mind, we're done. Why? Why not just make them regional forms and give us 4 regional forms instead? Right? Would that not have been, or 4 regional form families instead? Would that not have been more complete? Would that not have made more sense? Right? And I mean, hey, if you really love the fact that they're different Pokemon so much, just do what you did with Alolan Vulpix, where you gave it an Alolan name and just call them by those names. Right? Then they're new Pokemon, quote unquote, but you don't have to worry about confusing people, and you can make things that still have parity, that sound and act like they were made together at the same time. Right? And then one more thing, please. I would love to see more new evolutions for older monsters. Like you took a break from that in Gen 6, 7. Well, really, 5, 6, and 7 basically had none, with Sylveon being the sole exception to the rule. And I was happy to see you go back to that with Gen 8 and 9. Please don't kill that momentum. Please keep that up. Older Pokemon need new love. They need something to help them out, because so many of them, like Tropius here, who it looks like you guys might be giving a little bit of an upgrade to, and I'm all for it, because Tropius sucks. It's garbage. The metagame that you have created is detrimental to older Pokemon. So change it, please. I beg you. I beg you to go back and give these new these old Pokemon new forms so that they have something to keep them around. Oh, the gimmicks, man. God, I hate these things. I hate them so much. Megas were cool. That was a fun way to breathe life into older Pokemon, even though to me it really did feel like y'all were just trying to make new Pokemon, quote unquote, without having to completely make new designs or anything like that. Like you wanted to give everybody an origin form like Giratina had, but you also know that you can't just like do that. Pokemon have to have a reason to be changing their form, especially ones that have been around for so long, right? And it felt like a poor replacement for new Pokemon in that regard. But it was still fun. I still enjoy Mega Evolutions. I think they're great. Every other gimmick that you have made has been garbage, guys. Z moves have some fun properties in battles, but they were basically you just looking at the players and going, hurry up, hurry up. You don't need to make decisions. You don't need to plan. You shouldn't be having fun. You should be pressing the big bomb button and getting the battle over with so that we don't have to do this anymore. Hurry up, right? And it just felt really antithetical to an RPG. You think out what you do in RPGs. That is the whole point behind them, right? Um, and then the Gigantamax felt like the exact same thing. It all feels like the creators of the game don't have time for their own game anymore. So stop making it. Nobody's forcing you to. You want the money, right? So stop trying to change how everything works and work with the players. These gimmicks have got to go. I've seen this Majin form thing. I don't know how it works, admittedly. It could be fun. It could be unique. It could be cool, but I really sincerely doubt it. Terrestrialization was a good gimmick. I'll give credit where it's due from a battle perspective. That did make things fun, but I don't see there being a chance that this Majin gimmick even comes close to being that interesting, let alone actually fun like Megas were. No shot. And I just don't understand what the thought process is here. There have been 5 different generations of Pokemon that were released consecutively that had no gimmick and were your best-selling games, right? It's just like I know. I'm not talking. I'm talking overall, not individually. I know that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield sold better than, say, Ruby and Sapphire or Gold and Silver. But I'm talking about putting the sales of Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 together versus putting Gen 7, or let's do 8, Gen 8 and 9 together, right? The older games have done better and still are played to this day routinely by Pokemon players. Why? Because they focused on what made the game good, the battles, the abilities. You had this system set up that people were excited to look into, but you keep throwing these ugly wrenches into it. And it's so antithetical to what you want to do. Excuse me. Please ditch the gimmicks and find something worth your time to put into the games. I mean, this one's really basic. I just want places that look pretty. That lava cave that you see right here with the slugmas looked nice. Underwater looked nice. The forest looked nice. I must say, from a presentation standpoint, I am impressed with Winds and Waves. Even though I see the shadows of something far more sinister working their way into it and possibly negatively affecting things. It looks great. I hope y'all will keep that up. Good job. I put the picture of the Dondozo and the Luminion and stuff underwater here to emphasize the diving feature returning, because it it needs to it needs to be mentioned that interactivity and explorability like that in Pokemon games is virtually non-existent now. Uh, very, very, very few Pokemon games have that level of explorability that the old ones did. Um, Pokopia, interestingly enough, seems to have kind of taken over that role, and I think that's great. But yeah, whenever I was riding around on Koraidon or Miraidon and doing things, I just kept thinking to myself, "Wow, I'm so happy that I can climb up the side of this cliff, but I can't talk to anybody in this world. That's what a great trade-off." Right? And I can't interact with the objects in the world either. You can like run into trees to knock Pokemon off. That's fun. But like remember when you could cut them down and you could break the rocks and you could push the boulders and there were puzzles involving like magnetic rocks and stuff like it. It just used to be more of an RPG and less of an instruction video. You know what I mean? Less of a or more like a promotional video. Here's the world of Pokemon, right? Oh, come vacation down here. Isn't it so nice? And I don't. That's not the vibe I'm looking for. I'm looking for nobody's been here before. We don't know what it's like. It could be dangerous. Go out and teach us about the world, right? That's the kind of thing that made the series work well. And I think a lot of players are frustrated by the hand holding and the lack of explorability and interactability, excuse me, that these modern titles have, because they tell us they're a big, wide, expansive world, but they're really not. In real life, I can look at pick up a rock and I can look at that rock for hours, right? Nobody can stop me, right? I could just sit there and I could just look at it and that could be my day. So be it, right? In the world of Pokemon, if I am not battling somebody, well, modern Pokemon games, if I am not battling somebody or a wild creature or delivering something to somebody for some sort of fetch quest that they've given you, like all those stupid missions on Legends ZA. I didn't get into it too much here, but I hate Legends ZA with a passion. That was far and away the worst Pokemon game ever made. There is no excuse for how lazy, worthless, and time-wasting that game was. By nature, they made it a time waster, and that is awful. Absolutely awful. But anyway, like it doesn't feel like a lived-in world anymore. It just doesn't. In the old games, you could interact with TVs, you could interact with books, you could interact with shelves, you could check yourself out in the mirror, you could see what other people were watching in places, you could talk to people who would then talk to you because they recognize that you talked to somebody else, right? Like, I don't know what happened to the nature of these games, but these games aren't about exploring anymore. And they keep saying, well, we made champions so that people can focus on battling, so that over here we can focus on what? What exactly? What are you focusing on? Now that the battling has been handed over to your lesser successful team, God, champions is another nightmare. Right now that it's been handed over to them, what are you focusing on? Because you're making battle mechanics despite saying that you made a new game so that people could focus on battles. So what is it? What is the focus anymore? I hope that you somehow, some way, hear this and apply this reasoning to your game design, because it doesn't really feel like the goal is anything anymore except making money. That the whole purpose behind making these games is to just sit here and make $70 every year. You know? You've removed the heart from it all. Please go back and look at how you used to make worlds and incorporate some of that into your modern games. Please. Thanks very much, everybody. I am, in spite of everything that I've said, I am still very excited for Winds and Waves. There's nobody harsher on a product or a brand or anything than its own fans because they're the ones who are endeared to it and there's the ones that, want to see it succeed, right? So I know I've been pretty scathing here. I'm not trying to be mean-spirited. It's just like, it's very apparent what is going on here. And it seems like what is going on here is let's do as little as we possibly can to get that $70 paycheck from every player. And I don't know what the answer is because the problem is that quota is that every year you got to make a new one, we got to keep pumping them out for product placement, for visibility, for right, and that's the ultimate issue. But until the Pokemon company takes a hit, actually gets rattled a little bit and understands that sitting around and pumping out games that barely work once a year, every year, just to get people to buy things isn't a viable strategy, things will never change. And I don't fault Game Freak for it specifically. I fault upper management and Game Freak for not having a spine and standing up to the people who are pushing them this way. But I don't blame the company for adopting this when it's as successful as it is. The whole point behind a business is to make money, but you should want to make money and make people happy so that they will continue to give you money. Right? So I hope and pray that this somehow reaches them and they come to understand that the general consensus among people who aren't Pokemon fans is that you guys just don't try anymore. And you need to. You need to, you need to, you need to. For the sake of your franchise, please. Anyway, thanks again. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for your time and support. Are you excited for the games? If you are, please leave a comment below, like and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see in the game. And just, again, very briefly for everything, I don't own Pokemon, I don't own Nintendo, I don't own Game Freak or anything related to them. This is for fun. It was under fair use. I'm just expressing my opinion. That's it. Thanks you all so much for your time. Hope you all have a great day. Stay safe out there in this absolutely crazy world. And I'm going to see you all in the next one.